why not spend a little bit of time and take, I don't know, a $2,000 flight to go hang out with the people who are responsible for the infrastructure that serves you and hundreds of customers?
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Process Lab, the process podcast where we talk about everything process and operations excellence. And today we're excited to have on the show Andy Audate. Andy,
Yes.
Welcome to the show.
My friend, I'm so excited to be here, Sam, and let's get this party started.
Absolutely. So Andy is a renowned small business marketing expert, and he's the founder of Prograda. Did I say that right?
Correct.
All right. With a proven track record, he specializes in assisting small businesses in effectively marketing their high-ticket services through webinars that have attracted over 9,500 entrepreneurs. Andy's SaaS has achieved a 7-figure run rate, and his guidance has empowered thousands of small businesses to create marketing campaigns that have collectively generated 20+ million in revenue. So with that impressive introduction, I'm very happy to have you here. And today we had talked about, obviously you've scaled your own business and you've got a lot of operational insights to share with folks. And I think the thing that was most impressive to me when catching up and reading your profile is how you've really scaled an organization with a lot of virtual resources. I know that's a hot topic right now in today's digital and increasingly digitized operating model economy. So I kind of want to start the conversation there and see where it goes, because I know you also have expertise in onboarding. You do a lot of technology implementation. So there's a lot of insight we can gain from you, but let's go ahead and start the conversation there.
Yeah, I think working with a virtual workforce, for me, my background, Sam, I started with T-Mobile, actually. I am the youngest T-Mobile cell phone dealer, the cell phone franchise. So when I was 19 years old, I started my first location. I'm no longer in that industry now. I transitioned to digital marketing and I saw the future there. However, when I started that industry, I was working with domestic workforces that was operating my businesses. And so I had 4 locations. And then I transitioned to the digital marketing world. And then I discovered this idea of hiring virtual workforces, not being stuck to your local geographic workforce, but you can go and expand. So I have staff team members in Africa. I have staff members in Philippines. I have staff members in Pakistan, all over the world. I have people working for my organization. And what I found was I'd rather go global to find the right person rather than just local to find whatever is available.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I know a lot of people are still trying to leverage that type of work model. How do you think about processes that are more fit to, let's say, outsource to other countries or to virtual workforce versus others? Like when you talk about you've scaled, you found the right people in different countries, but what do you normally target to move over and how?
Well, the first thing that I make an effort to identify is build systems for the role, not for the person. Create systems for the role. And what I mean by that is, let's say, for example, in my company, we have a role called admin support. Admin support is one of those roles that most people on our admin team usually start in. It's like the grunt worker. It's like, I need a flyer to be created or random task that needs to be done. And it's a random basic task. I'm gonna give you a quick example. We use a phone software called Vonage. That's one of the many tools that we have. And Vonage specifically, there's a cost for the call recordings to host the call recordings. And I remember one day I just got an extra on top of what I'm already paying. I got an extra $200 bill. And I'm like, what is this $200 bill for? And then I did some research and I came to find out that there's a storage fee. Every phone call that goes in and out of my company is recorded. And there's a storage fee for that recorded call. And as I do more and more, as my company does more and more calls, the storage fee just goes up and up and up. So when I caught that, I created one process, and I'll give you a quick example. I use a software called Loom. Have you heard of it, Sam?
I have. Yeah, Loom's a good one.
So I take a software called Loom, and I record the process of downloading the files to my computer, and then uploading the files to my to a Google Drive, which is I have unlimited storage with Google. So what does that process look like? Hey, you have to you have to have admin rights, log into Vonage, download the files itself, and then there's a naming convention to track it by the month. So every 30 days, this task auto-populates. Since I created this task, it's been 3 years. This is just one example of the hundreds, if not thousands of tasks that we have. But I created this task 3 years ago. And because I created that task, it saves me thousands of dollars per month at this stage. And I've had 38 people. I just saw this. That's why I'm bringing it up. I just saw this. I've had 38 people manage that task, and I never had to put any attention on it. So I recorded a Loom with the steps on how to do the activity. And then when the virtual assistant logs in, they watch the video instructions, me telling them why this is important and what it looks like to complete this task, which is as simple as like, hey, download the files off Vonage, delete the files on Vonage, upload them to a Google Drive, and use a specific naming convention of the year first and the date in a specific order, so that way we can always find past recordings over the years if we need them. And then that's you completing the task. And something as simple as that, it just saves my company thousands of dollars because I'm not paying storage fees. But I never had, over the last 3 years, I've never had to like put any attention to this. And this has been going on unbeknownst to me for the last 3 years. And an admin support person comes in, they may have never worked in my company, never worked in digital marketing, but they're able to follow the instructions. And so we try to create a bunch of different tasks just like that on customer support activities, customer retention activities, customer success activities, even sales activity and social media marketing activities. We have tons of different tasks that are operating that are very basic, very simple, but all of them lead to like the big thing, which is help us get more customers, help us retain more customers, and help us grow our monthly recurring revenue side of our business.
Yeah, that's great. And I actually have some more questions about how you put that system together, because I think, that's the secret sauce. But before we do that, why don't you tell us just a little bit more about your business so we can contextualize what you're talking about?
For sure. I run a marketing consulting company and we sell marketing software. So the first one is we sell strategy, where we identify opportunities of customer acquisition for businesses. Businesses want to get more customers online, especially in the new digital landscape. And they're trying to find out, how do I get more customers? How do I onboard more customers? And how do I retain more profit inside of my business? So we give them the strategies. Then to implement those strategies, they typically need softwares. They need softwares to send out emails, text messages. They need softwares to host webinars and sales presentations. So we have a software stack that we sell to the business owner as well, so that way they can implement our strategy. So we do strategy, marketing strategy, and marketing software as well.
Okay, fantastic. And with that then, and you talk about like the phone and the storage billing example is a great example. And you talk about us having a Loom video, but it sounded like from when you were talking, you can have multiple people in your back office support just like pick those tasks up. Do you have like an overarching workflow system you use, or do you have like a place that you store these tasks and videos? We'd love to know a little bit more about how you're organizing that operationally.
Yeah, so we started off with Asana years ago, and then we transitioned to ClickUp in the last like 2 years. And the reason why we transitioned to ClickUp is because of the amount of automations. And we have a tremendous amount of automations that are tied to Slack, and automations that are able to move projects and tasks moving forward. So I'll give you an example of a workflow. Today, we submit a form. And I don't know if I could share my screen on this. I don't know if there's sharing screen on here. If you want me to, I can.
We can try it. Some people will be listening without audio.
Yeah, so
if
you're not watching this on video, be sure to take advantage of the video creation or the video aspect. So we use something called there's a couple things that we use, but here's one of them. Inside of this platform here, we are able to create a Google site. The value of creating a Google site is if I try to log in and I'm not in Google. You can't see my screen, right?
Hold on 1 second. I can't see it yet. So let's wait. I think this will be actually really great for the audience. So are you just hitting share screen? It's not popping up?
So let me do it one more time. And what I'll do is I'll share the window.
Here we go. I see it. I'm adding it to the stage and we're in.
Okay. So here, if you notice here, when I go to that specific link, it's going to ask me to log in. Okay. And let me see this, and let me do it one more time. And let me click on share screen.
So this is great. Impromptu demo.
Impromptu demo. You're gonna need to put it live again. So here is our link here, where in order for someone to even get access to this, they have to be on our email. And this is why I can share this with you publicly, because you're not gonna the audience is not necessarily gonna be on our email. So this provides a sense of security for your company. Now, this is just real quick. If someone comes in on our team and they have a tech request, so we have nearly 60 people on our staff that are working with clients, and we're building out funnels. We're building out email automations. We're building out text message sequences. Sometimes it's our internal tech where we need to update our affiliate software, or we need to transfer an account, or we need to support a customer somehow in the tech aspect. We create a task where we create the title, we put our email, we put the Loom link, and then we put the due date. And then we put if it's urgent or if it's a normal priority. As soon as we submit this, everything that's on this link gets copied automatically into a ClickUp task and gets assigned to a tech team member in round robin. Round robin, I think on our tech team we have like 12 people. Round robin essentially just means whoever has availability. So it can go to any specific person, whoever has availability. Also, that task, the contents of that task is copied into Slack. I'm a CEO and I do not want to be in ClickUp personally. So ClickUp is a project management tool to manage your task, manage projects. And with the amount of staff that I have, it gets overwhelming for me because I have so many people doing things on ClickUp every day. So I personally like to be on the move. I'm doing podcasts. I'm doing speaking engagements. I'm on the move. I can be on a plane. So I use Slack primarily. So I built out an infrastructure where when someone submits a ticket, it will then get updated in ClickUp. Like I said, that's his first step. And then everything that happens in ClickUp is copied into a Slack thread. Meaning I can see while I'm on the move what's going on in any given department from my cell phone. And I'm able to streamline that process right down to what's happening in the last minute in that specific project. So that's an example of taking something that's kind of like a bunch of steps years ago, like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. This is what our process for the tech team was. Hey, John, I have an issue. Can you help me? Can you hop on Zoom with me? And they're like, okay, I'm on Zoom. What do you need? Can you fix this? Okay, cool. And another person is like, hey, John, can you help me on this Zoom room right after? And then they're waiting on a Zoom room, and John's going like this, going back and forth. And now it's streamlined in a ticket process that everyone can get involved inside of Slack as well as in ClickUp.
Great. Yeah, thanks for sharing. I think these kind of real life use cases are really helpful to contextualize. A lot of times people can say, oh, I do this for Automate, I do this, but this really makes it real. So I appreciate you sharing at that detail level. And I would ask, with the people that you have, those like folks who are on round robin, you went back to the beginning and you said you have to source these folks really carefully. Like when you source for those virtual assistants, do you have to screen? Because it sounds like they can, as long as somebody submits a Loom video, they can really handle anything. How do you kind of work your operating model so people know, is it a certain skill set that it has to stay within or a certain experience level, or do you have more experienced VAs? I guess talk about how you reach that harmony.
Yeah, we definitely have more experienced VAs. So we want to be careful not to put the more experience with tasks that are beginner or basic. So we've hired staff on our team that have worked with other software companies and marketing service providers that are worth in the billions, and they were leaders there, and then they came here. Many times, the competitive advantage for that is when they work with companies at that size in the billions per se, or even in the high millions, 9-figure range. What tends to happen is that they have to work kind of in a corporate experience. They have to go into an office, even if they're remote. They have to go into an office, and that's exactly what's happening in Pakistan and the Philippines, where these companies, they may start off remote, and then they get structured in a way that they have to have an office and so on and so forth. So the competitive advantage for us is like, hey, you want to work from home? Do you really want to travel in the middle of congestion in, like, let's say Manila, Philippines? Do you really want to travel in the middle of congestion, spend 2 hours to get to work, and then spend 2 hours to get home? Or do you just want to stay at home with your family? And so that gives us the competitive advantage to hire top tier talent. So a lot of the employees that we hire, actually, Sam, like their past experience is working for someone like a company like Chase Bank. So when you call Chase Bank and you're talking to someone, many times the first level, the tier 1 support person is going to be in the Philippines. So we want to source people like that. The person that's managing your bank account, yeah, like for sure, like we want to bring that person. We've hired people from Verizon. We've hired people. I just learned that one of my admin people was the leader at Capital One fraud department, right? So like we want to bring in those type of people to come and work inside of our organization to bring those skills and what they've learned there into our company, as our company is a growing enterprise.
Okay. So this is actually a very strong insight. And for those of you listening, I think a lot of people, they think about virtual assistants, they think of how having to go through an agency, but it sounds like you're sourcing people like one-to-one. Is that right?
Well, so you can go through an agency. When you go through an agency, if you can adopt their processes, if you're behind their processes, because there's agencies who will hire where it's like whoever's available. There's different platforms you can hire. You can go to Fiverr.com. There's a tremendous amount of different online platforms to hire remote workforce. But the agency that you're sourcing with, are they hiring top tier talent or are they hiring bodies? Because if you're talking about third world countries, you can hire almost anyone to work for you, but they may not have the level of competency, the level of experience, the level of knowledge, or how to problem solve. And so I make an effort to hire top tier talent, and I've hired through agencies 100%. I've also gone. I'm actually the previous call that I got on before here was discussing me going to the Philippines. So I will actually travel. I live in Las Vegas today, Nevada, United States. I will travel 20 something hours to the Philippines. I will bring dinners with potential team members and give them an opportunity to hear my vision of what we're creating and enroll them to work inside of my company and stay there for a week. We'll do charities, we'll do events. I got an event that has happened in a couple of weeks with 200 people in Manila, Philippines, and then I'll travel back to Las Vegas, and then we'll probably hire some of those individuals to work inside of our company. So I'm boots on the ground hiring team members. I'm also doing it digitally online.
Yeah. That's really fascinating. So I just want to know a little bit background there and how your thought process, like I've never heard of anyone, and it's very, like I said, it's unique. And I think it's the right way to hire because you would hire talent like that domestically. What made
Right.
you think of this process where you actually would travel out to the Philippines or some of these locations in foreign countries to meet the workers and do a more standard interview? I guess, where did that come from?
Well, first and foremost, like they're people like we're people, right? And if I think the layer of online creates this 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 gap of transparency, of relationship, of connection. So I first and foremost I hired people remotely, and the experience is always we've only seen each other on Zoom. We've only seen each talk to each other on Slack or whatever the messaging platform. If I don't really know you, then it changes the relationship compared to like if we hung out. So I hired for I think 4 or 5 years before I went to the Philippines. 4 years before I went to the Philippines, and then after I went to the Philippines, one of my team members said, "Okay, now it's real." So I'll give you an example. One of my team members, we would connect and talk, and they've been with me for 5 years essentially. And one of the things that they said was, "Now that you came, I feel like this is real." I spent time with their family. I spent time with their kids. I spent time with their spouse and so forth. And that shift, I'm talking about a shift in leadership, a shift in mindset, a shift in corporate results, a shift in value for the company, completely almost 6x our revenue because of that decision of me going for a trip to go see the team in person, because it created and breeded commitment like at a whole nother level. It's like having a retreat. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, I know you online. That's the reality. I've seen you on the internet. I've seen you for all these years. Yes, you pay me, but is everything that you're saying real? Is this experience in this company, is it real? Is the direction that we're going in this company real? And there's a level of hesitancy, no matter how long someone works for you, there's a level of hesitancy because they never actually got a chance to experience you in real life. Once they experience you in real life, that's when the whole game changes. And so I did it one time, and I realized how valuable it was. I realized how valuable it was. We did a retreat. So I realized how valuable it was to hang out in the pool side. I realized how valuable it was to have in-person memories. I value how important it was to have dinners. So rather than having a bunch of VAs only work online, the relationship ends up only being an online experience. But when you can bring in that in-person experience at some point, and you can communicate that this is going to happen again in the future, it creates a different level of camaraderie amongst your team and amongst you as a leader in the relationship that you have with your staff.
Yeah. I absolutely love this. I have to tell you, because no one would doubt what you're saying for people who are co-located. Like we like to say the value in process. And again, I want to articulate this point because I think it's super critical. process efficiency oftentimes is achieved through this type of mindset. Like you said, there's more buy-in, there's more emotional bonding. Like these are the things that bind people together and make for stronger organizations. I will say, the most people I think that I meet who are considering virtual workforce options, this isn't even like in the realm of their thinking, right? Like, oh, that I would go to the Philippines, or I would go to Africa, or I would go and visit these people where they were. Although if you were all working remotely, one would say, oh, we should definitely get in the office and meet the same way every quarter. But I think somehow we dehumanize by default a lot of our virtual workforce. So I just think the way you talk about it, your investment on a trip to the Philippines was probably marginal compared to the productivity and sort of the teamwork you get. And like, I think that's a really smart investment. And for a lot of people who are listening, it's not even that they probably wouldn't make the ROI on the investment. They just never even thought about it that way. So I'm really, I feel grateful that you shared that and shared your experience, because I think part of it, this is how you scale a strong operating model. Because a lot of what you hear with virtual workforces is you hire one, they leave in 2 months. You're constantly trying to backfill them, and people aren't seeing the ROI. But I think there's wisdom in you've got to treat them like you treat any other team member. I think it's super important.
Exactly what you just said, like the dehumanizing, which is a profound word. It's exactly what you just said, because that's why you'll have someone leave in 2 months or 3 months, or whatever, because they didn't even feel any level of connection. They felt that you were a box on Zoom as a CEO or as a leader, or as a manager. They felt like you were a box on Zoom. And with you being a box on Zoom, they're like, hey, I can just not open Zoom and not go to work, right? But it's a different experience if like, hey, you as a leader, you've met my kids, you've held my kids, you've spent time with my husband, or you spent time with my wife. We've had dinner together. We have great memories together. You're a real friend. And that level of connection. Now, mind you, 60 people on my staff, that's an itty bitty company compared to where I really want to go to, right? So that's tiny. So I have the ability to do that. Now, granted, I'm sure that at some point with hundreds of employees, I may not be able to do that, but definitely for my leadership team. I'll share with you, for example, now we're putting efforts in Pakistan. I just got off a call about going to Pakistan. So my plan this year, for example, I'll go to the Philippines. I got one coming up, but later on in the year, I'll go to the Philippines. And then the week after, I'll spend some time in Pakistan with our developers in Pakistan. They're the ones who's built our entire infrastructure. So for a company that's generating millions, why not spend a little bit of time and take, I don't know, a $2,000 flight to go hang out with the people who are responsible for the infrastructure that serves you and hundreds of customers?
Yeah. Well, even you're saying you're small, but even at your scale, a lot of people struggle to scale with a sustainable cost structure, even up to where you are. So I definitely wouldn't minimize the complexity. And I think that of your own business and the scale you're at, but also even moreover, this idea that if you're going to leverage labor arbitrage, if you're going to leverage a remote workforce, you have to have a stable core to even get to where you are, keep going. And that's why I think it's amazing that we got here in this conversation, because I think for anyone who's thinking about scaling their business through virtual resources, there's a very critical and important lesson in what Andy's sharing here. And like, if you want to make sure, just like with regular workers, employee turnover is a massive cost at the organization. You have to stay organized, and you have to manage. You have to be in a skilled way manage your resources if you're going to have a good operating model. So, yeah, I don't think you should cheapen sort of. I think what you're doing is probably a philosophy that's going to get you probably even 10x from where you are now. If you have the right relationships, and in an overly technical world, I think it just can't be overstated how important those relationships still are. And I think you're living proof from what we're discussing.
I appreciate you on that. For
sure. And I think with that, I mean, I'd probably love to pick your brain on a lot of other ways that you scaled and got here, but we'll have to save it for another conversation because unfortunately we're at time. But before we go, I'd love for people to be able to find you. Do you have anything you'd like to share with our audience in terms of how to connect with you, how to learn more from you, how to connect with you on marketing? Let us know how we can connect.
Yeah, you can go to Andy Audate on social media. That's ANDYAUDATE or AndyAudate.com.
Awesome. And with that, thank you for joining us, Andy, on the Process Lab. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time.
Sam, thank you so much for having me, my friend.